Joining me now is Australian Financial Review political editor Phillip Coorey, who was there in the news conference with Jim Chalmers today. Interesting appointment, especially because he was the Chief of Staff to Wayne Swan just before Jim Chalmers was. That connection's been noted. What did you make of the appointment today?
Yeah, look, the Productivity Commission isn't of great interest to a lot of people, Tom. It's not as important an institution as the Reserve Bank, but nonetheless it's meant to be an independent body that advises the government on how to boost productivity, and it's been no secret that the Labor movement's been unhappy with it for a while. The ACTU's been demanding it be overhauled, and the Treasurer came in promising to reshape it. So I think in the context of that, appointing what his enemies will call a Labor mate to run it, I think is only going to lead to one conclusion from the other side of politics, and perhaps some in the business community as well, that they're looking for a productivity commission that's going to sort of look more favourably upon Labor's agenda and probably drop some of its old traditional sort of economic dry approach to things. We saw only last week that report that took aim at this notion that the government may subsidise the production of batteries in Australia. Had a real red hot go, and that goes at the national, what's that thing called, the Reconstruction Fund and stuff like this, which is sort of big government subsidising manufacturing. Now that's old Productivity Commission doesn't like that. Maybe the new one will. Maybe that's why. And then that was certainly the Treasurer was hinting at that today. Yeah,
so its approach has always just been look at the cold hard numbers. Does this make sense? I guess when we're looking at the Productivity Commission and its so-called performance, all it can do is have recommendations or cast its eyes over numbers and make recommendations. It doesn't necessarily mean the Productivity Commission has failed just because productivity has. No. Have governments always listened to it?
Yeah, as Philip Lowe said last week in India, he said, there's no shortage of solutions to the productivity malaise. It's a lack of political will, and his message was not just at this government, but governments all around the world. He said the solutions exist, you just got to have the guts to implement them. So, the Productivity Commission's done now 2 of those 5 yearly reports, one under Scott Morrison. Most of that never got enacted because most of it needed the states and they went nowhere. And then they did another one a couple of months ago, and that sort of was on a shelf collecting dust because a lot of it didn't really sort of square with what this government wants to do, especially on industrial relations. So you can only suggest what you think needs to be done, but at the end of the day, governments have to do these things.